Hello everyone, my name is Amy and today I'm going to be talking about the toxic relationship between sunscreen and coral reefs. So first and foremost, what are coral reefs? Coral reefs are underwater ecosystems that are made up of reef-building corals. Corals are sessile, and sessile meaning that they're fixed in place, animals that attach themselves to ocean floors. Coral colonies are made up of many coral polyps that are bonded together by calcium carbonate. Coral polyps are small, soft-bodied organisms that are not thicker than a nickel. They attach themselves to rocks on ocean floors and multiply. These soft-bodied polyps secrete limestone, which creates the hard exoskeleton of coral and attaches itself to the surrounding rocks or dead skeletons of polyps. By piling up and layering the crystals from the limestone, corals are able to create their own supporting structures, which thicken and protect them from rough currents, storms, and other breakage-causing entities. So some quick facts about coral reefs. They are actually sometimes called the rainforests of the sea, this being because they are incredibly biologically productive and diverse ecosystems. Despite only occupying less than 1% of the ocean, they are actually home to at least 25% of all known marine species. They can usually be found in shallow tropical waters, but there have been a small amount that were found in deep cold waters in other parts of the world. And it is estimated that the annual economic value of coral reefs in the United States alone is more than 3.4 billion US dollars. So what seems to be the problem? Well, main one being that our coral reefs are dying. They currently face numerous threats, with the main problem being coral bleaching. Coral bleaching actually happens when a coral is stressed and it expels out an important algae known as xanthellate, which usually resides in the polyps of the coral, and it produces 90% of its energy. This process usually leads to the eventual death of coral. So what's the deal with sunscreen? Most commercial sunscreens actually contain a chemical called oxybenzone. Oxybenzone, or BP3, is an organic compound that forms crystals of no color that are readily soluble and they absorb UV light very well. It has been found that BP3 is incredibly toxic to not just juvenile corals but to other types of marine life as well. And in even very low doses, oxybenzone can be detrimental to the ecosystems. Only 62 parts per trillion are required to see negative effects. And to put this in a larger scale, it's about the same as 1 drop of water in 6.5 Olympic swimming pools. So what exactly does oxybenzone do? Research has found that oxybenzone acts as a skeletal endocrine disruptor in coral. It has been linked to the deformation of the larval form of coral, which is known as planula. It induces ossification, in which the planula encases itself in its own skeleton, and although this doesn't necessarily kill the coral, it does prevent the coral from properly regenerating and recovering, which can eventually lead to its death. Oxybenzone was also found to have adverse reactions in the larvae of upside-down jellyfish, which caused them to swim in irregular patterns and eventually die out. So how does this affect our society and the environment? Well, for starters, oxybenzone in sunscreen leads to coral bleaching. This is by far the most important point that I'd like to make. Not only are coral reefs home to an immense number of marine species, but they also generate half of the world's oxygen. In a 2011 study done by the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, it was estimated that if no action was taken and fast, we'd lose all of our coral reefs by the year 2050. Number 2, oxybenzone also adversely affects the growth and reproduction of marine life. As we saw in the previous slide, oxybenzone was found to have negative effects on the larvae of certain species. And lastly, coral reefs are a main source of revenue for many tourism-based economies, for example, the US Virgin Islands and the Hawaiian Islands. In Hawaii alone, it was estimated that some 5 million tourists visit their coral reefs per year and bring in some $863 million in tourism revenue annually. So what can you do? First and foremost, don't purchase any items that contain oxybenzone. When you're searching for sunscreen, look for those that are labeled reef safe. Generally, those are the ones that are zinc or titanium based. Also, write to your local policymakers. In 2018, Hawaii passed a bill that banned the sale of and distribution of oxybenzone-based sunscreens without prescription from a healthcare provider. We should be making this a worldwide policy just because it's not just Hawaii's byproducts that are going into the ocean, it is all of ours. And lastly, please do your part to alleviate the effects of global warming. After you eliminate oxybenzone products from your everyday life, the next best thing that you could do for the corals is to do your part in the fight against climate change. And that concludes my presentation on sunscreen and its effects on coral reefs. I hope that you learned something new today. I hope that everyone is staying safe and healthy, and please let me know if I missed anything or if you have any questions. Thank you.